evening, Zambia, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Manifesto, a governance program that gives you an opportunity to listen to your leaders and hear what they have planned for you in order to develop the country. Today on the program, I've got a special guest, the President of Economic Freedom Fighter, Mr. Kasonde Mwenda. Welcome to the program.
I'm so grateful, Ndanche, for according me this opportunity to come and share notes with you and the people of Zambia.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, let's just get to it. I know the viewers are very anxious in trying to know you from a personal level. Who is Mr. Kasonde Mwenda?
I'm a citizen of this great republic of Zambia. I'm a parent, I'm married, and I have 3 children, all boys.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and professionally, I'm an architect as well as a law scholar.
I believe you have a very rich history that has led you to even decide to say, I want to contest as a president. Can you maybe take us into that rich history of how it all came to light to say that now I need to serve even the Zambian people?
Well, I may not dwell much on how rich that history is because I don't know what you have when you're not. Okay. Nonetheless, my inspiration to form a political party that I've been nurturing with a lot of my friends from diverse part of our society is premised on our desire to bring a certain energy, a certain patriotism, a certain freshness in our politics. I think the turning point that I can remember came as early as 2009. That's when I was president for the Copperbelt University. It is some of the things that I experienced when I was union president in the union transfer that I came to see that indeed our country, in as much as we've been making steady progress here and there, we've been falling short of the kind of energy that we need as a country to be propelled. Because during that period, I had an opportunity to come as far as State House, come and have a meal with the president whilst I was presiding over the youth of this country. I could represent the youth of this country at the Commonwealth level. I went almost to many places in this world to represent the youth of Zambia. And what I saw in comparison of how we stay here precipitated in me a desire not just to be one that is condemning, but one that wants to be part of the solution for this country.
Yeah. And you have been in leadership position for quite a while. It's not now that you have decided to be the president. Looking at the rich history that you have shared with us. But maybe the question would be that from that point when you used to represent different institution or group of individuals,
youth especially,
what challenges did you have and how were you able to see it in a proper lens to say this is how it's supposed to do and things supposed to move like this?
I got exposed to them, but I'll pick one. You know, we are, as humans, we exist in generations. And some of the challenges we have now could not be the same that those early generations had. Not that we feel less in capability of the current people that we have, but moments and times are changing, and mechanisms and styles and passion and level of engagement that we need to be putting across in the fight has been changing. For instance, I remember that is in 2008, the government then, should have been the MMD under Lupia Banda, came up with a new program where they are going to start cutting the sponsorship that government was putting to tertiary education, because I think in their own wisdom, they thought they were spending too much on education, especially universities. So they wanted to come up with a situation where they make universities become self-sufficient, meaning they needed to start charging what they were calling economic fees. It sounded good, but the repercussions were deep. For a person like me who was coming from Mungu Technical High School in the Northern Province, coming to the Copperbelt University, I did not just represent my family, but I represented a community way back in the North. So the lens through which I was seeing things against the lens through which the leaders of that moment, I remember the Minister of Education was Dora Syria. I remember we were at one meeting and they were saying, no, people who send their children to university should be able to pay for them. How can you have children that you can't pay for? And there I was sitting. And my school was not being paid by my parents because they couldn't afford a university fee. And I realized that, from what vintage point are these people seeing these things? Because these are intelligent people. They are the people who are running the country. But when I thought deeper, that was in Siavonga. Actually, we had gone for a retreat in Siavonga. There were many professors. I remember Professor Mkanga. There was even the current Vice Chancellor, Mr. Professor Msonda. All these were there. The academicians were there. Then I remember that meeting, I stood to a point of order saying, but if you say only people who can afford to pay should be allowed to take their children, what about you? You are professors, but are you telling me even for you to become doctors and professors? Not that all professors and doctors were against or were propagating for this move. It was coming from the political side. Then the MMT, they were suggesting that the bursary be removed and economic fees be introduced in universities and colleges, so that universities and colleges are running on their own. It sounded progressive, but from the majority point of view, it sounded good from a capitalist point of view, where it's survival of the fittest. Those who are rich prosper, those who are poor beat down to them. It sounded well, but we were having a generation that forgot where they are coming from. I remember standing there and saying, no, you can't do that. You can't remove, because people like me will never have a chance. Even people like you, remember where you're coming from. You're doctors. You were sponsored by government. Worse for them, when they were finishing school, they were finding these privileges, jobs waiting for them. Things have become hard. So you can't start making those decisions.
How did you align those challenges and making sure that there was solution put in place?
I remember there were other people in that meeting, like Professor Msonda, Professor Smkanga then was the Vice Chancellor for UNZA. They supported the movement. Said, no, what the young man is saying is true. But the political power that came just overlooked me, and they proceeded, and that was made into law. It was implemented, and the first step that was initiated was cutting off the bursaries.
Okay. You are known for a famous saying, wherever we want to go, our feet shall take us there. Tell us a bit about this context.
It is premised on us deciding to look inside for solution than always looking outside. I believe when something faces you, you have the capacity to face it back. So, and we believe the kind of emancipation we need, even on a personal level, usually we have what it takes to overcome. Even as a country, we have what it takes to overcome the challenges we have. I was telling you a story. It is from that moment where that saying was precipitated. When the cutting of bursaries was effected in all universities, I remember over 1,200 students who had been accepted already in the university, that's Copperbelt and UNZA, were removed from getting into university because school had almost opened and government said, we are not giving sponsorship anymore, we are cutting, and they cut off. I remember those children who had even traveled as far as from Northern Province, Western Province, and even come to university to do registration. They were stranded, they didn't even have transport money because they thought they already were going to be given government sponsorship. I looked at them, I was leader of the university then. There was so little I could do. But I believed that the solutions for the problems we have are usually inherent, are usually in us. I decided to talk to whoever I could talk. I couldn't get through. I went to the police. I asked for permission. I remember I went to Kitwe Central Police and asked for permission. Can you allow me at this cash to demonstrate so that the government can hear that these people they are trying to cut off are the future of Zambia. These people, they may be coming from rural places, but there is quality there also. These people could be just peasant farmers, but there's quality. Let's not cut off. We can cut elsewhere, but let's not cut on education. Luckily, I was given that permit. I demonstrated. I had a hunger strike for a day at Imposama Way in the middle of town. In the middle, the police came, the paramilitary. They got me in a Land Cruiser, and they told me, "Young man, you have had your day. You have done." Because during the day, we had brought down to a standstill. People had been coming to watch who is this young man demonstrating, and we had placards saying, government should not cut off sponsorship, it's cutting off the lifeline. And in the night when the police came, after I was being guarded by the street kids, they had come and they had been begging me, they had brought me lollipops, can you just eat something and stuff like that. But in the night, the police came, picked me, put me. For the first time, I had the gun to my ribs. I was taken out of campus. I was being driven somewhere. But I remember one policeman asked me, "Young man, unachoka kuti wamene?" So I said, "No, I was from the Northern Province. I was at Mungu." He said, "You're chimwafana. Naimeze kumungu." And after a while, they talked. The car turned, and I was taken back to university, and I was told, "Don't leave this institution."
We're going to take our first break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching the Manifesto. Make sure you like our Facebook page, Live TV, our Instagram, that's like Live TV. And make sure you catch us on Topstar Channel 112. Mr. Mwenda, we're still having a conversation on this very important context, which is wherever we want to go, our feet shall take us there. Yes, we continue from where we left it. This significant statement.
Yes, actually, I was driving you to where it came from. So when the police took me to campus, I knew we hadn't accomplished, at least we had made headlines. The issue had been given quite sufficient coverage, but it hadn't given us a solution. What we wanted was to ask government earnestly that they should reconsider that decision, because cutting off sponsorship of the vulnerable, because that bursary scheme was tailored since independence to be catering for those that can't afford, so that even in the rural, those people who are born poor could have a chance at education. I knew we hadn't achieved that. So I couldn't sleep. I was troubled in the night. So in the middle of the night, I woke up. I said, okay, our next step will now look at the extreme. We are going to walk from here to Lusaka. However long it's going to take, we'll go to the president and show him how really we are serious about asking him not to do this decision, because he'll be killing people. If we die, we die, but at least we should have sent a message. So in the morning, as early as 4, I remember at some sandals, I knew it was going to be a long journey. I was clad on sandals. I had some jean and some cardigan. And
no packed food.
No, I remember I had some packed beans.
Oh, okay, interesting.
I got some packed beans from the near shop. Some of the students sell things at campus within the night, so I bought some packed beans, some baked beans. I think I had two tins. Yeah, and a few food and a small bag.
And this one, you just did it alone.
You know, the dynamics were, we had gathered thrust. There were many people wanted to come. Now, the permit that I had gotten was for myself alone. And I knew the law does not allow a group, a gathering like of more than 3 people to be walking, demonstrating without permit. But alone, you can walk. The law actually does allow you to demonstrate alone. Yeah. So, and already I had a permit. So I said, okay, I'll walk. And because people were waiting to help me, I started to sneak off at 4. They were walking, covered, left at least Kitwe at 4. I was at Fisenge on the way to Rwansha there by 7, 8, somewhere there. The privilege, even the women who sell by the roadside started even cooking. Started cooking, so I did my first meal there. Then I used that shortcut. It's now in bad state. Started walking. Luckily, the media had gotten wind of what was happening, because we had announced that from the hunger strike, the next step was going to be walk to State House to meet the president and deliver the petition. I had even printed a lot of petition forms, so on the way people were signing.
Did that petition reach its destination?
That's where I'm taking you.
Let's go there.
So that is now where we knew that wherever I want to go, our feet shall take us there. We were left with nothing but just our feet. Our voice, we had spoken what we had to walk. We walked first day. We were ignored. I remember I slept on the second day. On the first day, I slept at Kafue Farm Block. The radios, at Millennium Radio Chengolo, were broadcasting. No, they don't protest that the Copper Belt University president is walking. On the one, it was like I'm joking. And when I reached Kafue Farm Block in the evening around 17 hours, I was so hungry and tired. I started to ask for water somewhere, and I found a pastor, Bishop Jerry, I remember. He told me, no, you can sleep here, it's too late and stuff like that. And he gave me a room to sleep in. And I was given water to bath, and I slept. Following day, I was up again at 6. started to walk again. That's quite a stretch. By the end of the day, we had finished. And luckily, that day, the same pastor had asked his son to escort me, so he helped me with the bag. We walked all the way up to meeting the Great North Road there at the end. Yeah. And unfortunately, since we were two, the gentleman helped me with my food and we finished all the food that we had. And on second day, I was feeling the pain because I'd walked 2 days straight, the whole day, the sun starting and rising. By then, we had gotten thrust. I remember we were even appearing on papers, and I remember Times of Zambia coming to photograph me. I remember some people were mocking me, saying, this boy will just be eaten by a lion, you give up walking. So day 2, I walked. Day 3, on day 2, I slept at Nyenyezi, somewhere, there's a market. And in the night, I was beaten by the cold because I noticed people were drinking something I didn't understand. They were preparing for the cold. It was quite cold. That was March. And in the night, I had to beg for a brazier to keep me alive because I would have frozen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Just moving forward, maybe due to other pertinent issues that we need to discuss, what happened now to the end?
Day 3, I walked. Day 4, we had gathered so much momentum. I was almost on every newspaper. I was on front page. Buses would stop, show me the newspaper. And the voice couldn't just be ignored. And on the 4th day, I had reached Kapiri. On walking out, I was so swollen. And to cut the long story, the president himself made a declaration that was Upia Banda, said, young man, wherever you are, stop walking. We have rescinded that decision and we are giving back the bursary. And there was jubilation. I was called the late Mano Chunda, who was the dean of students for CBU, called me. We celebrated, and that's how it was restored. And that was best. Wherever I want to go, our feet shall take us. For the first time, our feet took us to victory.
And on that note, did it now define you to say that I needed to save the Zambian people from that position, the president's position, so that things now can begin moving forward in your perspective?
I'm carrying a message of an agenda. I don't really care so much whether I'm president or not. But I believe there's a moment, there's a time for us to assemble. I'm an assembler. That's what I would call myself. I'm just bringing a certain mindset together, harnessing the people. Some people may not have the privileges and the connectivity that I have. I'm just trying to bring us together so that we work together. I'm not really so much passionate about being president. It's not my preoccupation.
A section of society would say you are young to be the president. What would you say about that?
The law says I'm not young enough because the law says I need to be just 35 and I'm above that. And I'm a father. I run a house and I've run companies. I've got 3 companies under my head and I'm still learning. And I mean, who said the country should just be run by a person? The country is run by a system.
Wonderful. Now, it's on a sad note that our country and the rest of the international community, we are mourning our founding father, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, of course, who has died. Dr. Kaunda died at the age of 97. Now, Mr. Mwenda, you did have an interaction with the late president, and you did write a book called, the book was Ordinary Legend.
Sure.
Yeah. Just tell us a bit about that experience.
I had just finished writing a book about the late Michael Sata, his biography. I talked to the family when he had passed. And I said, no, it's time we documented our information and made it accessible to people, because as Zambians, we haven't documented our history. So I was encouraged to write one for Bakeke, Washukuru, and I was privileged to have people that connected me to him, and I became a regular. I could interview him, I could interview his family, and I can assure you, that man is a total personification of discipline, hard work, humility, and focus. We were blessed as a country to have had such a man at the helm. Zambia and just the whole world has really lost, but we have gained because we were privileged to have worked with him.
And you further, I know you as an individual, it has impacted you in a certain way, but how is it of an impact to you and the party? And what lesson have you learned from the late president that you would want to enhance as the country move forward?
I've learned discipline. Kaunda was a very disciplined man. He was not a joker. He meant business. Kaunda was sacrificing. He was not materialistic. We are seeing a certain governance system. We are seeing a certain tradition where people are using politics as means to enriching themselves. Kaunda was not like that. And I know this country desires and needs to have leaders that don't just look about themselves. Those Kaunda and the whole team, they are the people that left their comfort to go and look for the good of this country. But now we see people becoming so corrupt. Leadership is now being used as a business. People go there where they're turning politics into a system of stealing, a system of enriching themselves at the expense of the masses. Politics is supposed to be like ministry. You go there to save the masses. If you are not ready to look at others, forgetting yourself, a bit of yourself, then you don't belong there. And we are seeing many people rushing into politics to enrich themselves. They don't belong there because politics is for the people. Many people are suffering right now. You see a leader driving a jeep, and then the people that elected them there, they are suffering. That is not the kind of leadership we need. And those are the promptings that make some of us. I'm quite sufficiently educated. And if I were to just go into industry, I'm a fairly successful architect. I've got an architectural firm. I'm a registered architect. I've got a construction company. I can go and make money. And I've made money before. Even these campaigns, no one is funding us. We are technically funding ourselves. So we have a little of what can keep us running. But we need a kind of people that would desire to drive this country selflessly, patriots. And Kaunda taught me that it pays to just work for the people.
We're going to take our final break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching the Manifesto on channel 112 on your top star decoders. Make sure you like our Facebook, that's Live TV, our Instagram at Live TV. President Mwenda, we continue with our conversation. Now, speaking about the book that you wrote, The Ordinary Legend, quite a significant book, and preferably maybe I would want you to take you on this particular page, of course, Benevolence in Defeat. Tell us about this aspect in the book.
It's really humbling when you look at how Kaunda took himself. He had been in power for quite a long period of time. But when a time came that the pause was in power, he realized he had lost an election that he didn't think he was going to lose. He was actually deceived into thinking he was going to win that election. He lost to Bachiluba, may he so rest in peace. You know what he did? He did not hold to power. He stepped down and paved way. In Africa, many countries have been rocked by war. Even now, people are fighting. They go into unity governments. They fight for power. Some people even go to influence systems for them to just remain in power. But this man taught us that at any moment, when your time comes, you need to do even the hardest thing. He led, by the way. That's why in this country, we should never have a president that refuses to accept defeat when they are beaten squarely. He taught us that. At least we saw one of his proselytes, Lupia Banda, when he lost to the Michael Sata, also stepped down. Because he was a young boy for Kaunda. If you follow, you hear even how Kaunda influenced even Lupia Banda to step down. So this is a culture that he birthed in us. In other countries, when the ruling government loses, they don't leave power, they start war. In Zambia, we're the most peaceful country in Africa because of what Kaunda did. He was also very forgiving. If you check on 38, just before, that's in August 1st, 1990, Kaunda decided to even forgive a person who had declared a coup. That is Baluchembe. Baluchembe had declared a coup. He forgave him. He tried to forgive him. That was treasonable. But he forgave. And he moved on. So he showed the kind of a heart that he had even in difficult times. He was forgiving. Because as a leader of the country, you need to have a big heart. You need to be forgiving because people err. But you need to be firm and disciplined.
Wonderful. So how can people access this book, Ordinary Legend, and are they soft copies? Do you only have hard copies of this same edition?
You know, interestingly, yesterday I was woken up by Book World because the earlier bunch they had for books had run out, so they came in the morning. Can we have copies? And they got a lot of copies because we had stockpiled copies. So I gave them a lot of copies, and they have distributed across the country as by yesterday. But if somebody can't find still, they can meet us on Facebook, Kasonde Mwenda, and they can just inbox us. I've got a team that can make this book available. Even, for just a small.
I think KK's biography is very key. I think this is, especially for younger generation, to try to get hold of this book and just study it and get to understand the perspective of our great leader and what he stood for. And I think that's the way forward.
Yeah. Because if we don't know where we are coming from, we will never know where we need to go. So we need to understand our history. It defines our future. We need to know, why are things like this? Why do things happen like this? Why do we have that coat of arms? Why is it that we break chains? Why do we have the ego? We need to understand where these things are coming from.
Okay, great. One issue now, before we dive into your plans, as we are winding up, of course, as well, the issue of health, our health sector, has been a major concern. There's a letter that you wrote, actually, in regards to the resident doctor, particularly Dr. Chola Sampa, who was actually laid off from service. Was that letter responded to?
You know, the interesting part is every letter we write gets to be responded to. That letter was responded to the very actual day. We sent it to cabinet and we got their acknowledgement. They wrote to us. But the communications, of course, that happen at that level is highly confidential. It's on a confidential letter. So, but we can divulge to an extent that is respectable, because if we are talking carelessly about what they explain to us, we risk them refusing next time to respond to us. So we do get responses. And on that one, yes, we have gotten a response.
Okay. Yeah. So let's just dive down into the plans that you have as a party towards developing Zambia as the economic freedom fighter. Now, before I dive into that, are you a sister to the EFF that is in South Africa?
We're a big family. The EFF and South Africa is just the firstborn. We are a Pan-Africanist movement. We have EFF in Malawi, we have EFF in Zimbabwe, in Uganda, in Angola. We are in more than 30 countries right now operating as economic freedom fighters, because we are an awakening that Africa can no longer continue in this trajectory of being dependent on aid, of being the back boy, but a moment has come that we need to have economic emancipation. We already got political emancipation by the great people like this one. But now our duty and our responsibility, now this generation, is for us to deliver economic emancipation. So we are economic freedom fighters fighting for economic freedom.
Speaking about economic freedom, I'm going to pick this as a major component in your manifesto, of course. How do you plan to drive this economy to where it's supposed to be, not where it is now?
You know, when you move in a house, the first step you need to do is put your house in order. So as economic freedom fighters, we have got 12 pillars under which we are leaning. One of them is, as you have asked me, is for us to restructure the Zambian governance system. We need to separate the arms of government. We don't need to have one where all the power is just put on one. It's like in a house. If the mother can't cook because the father hasn't said today we are eating carpenter, you can't move like that. In this country, we have got so much power that is put on the president. That has compromised the functionality of the systems. You find that we have been writing letters to Anti-Corruption Commission asking them to move strong. They need to get permit. They need to get clearance from the president for them to do that. That is wrong. Government has got three arms, and if these three arms, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, if they are working separately to a certain level, we can achieve a lot.
One would argue that politicians are full of fake promises. And if you remember Michael Chifasata being in opposition, he used to say, I'll get rid of the Public Order Act. When they went into government, we're still having those debates. Today, you say this. How truthful will you be, and how will you commit yourself to your words?
I may not be privileged to start defending other politicians, because the reason why we are coming is because we are affected also by those same fake promises. So we are also challenging those same promises, and we believe that will be different. Well, If people want to know whether we'll be different or not, at least let them look in our past where we're coming from. You know, I've had leaders in this country who have just mushroomed from somewhere, from nowhere. They mushroom, and you want to compare those people with us. It's not fair. At least let them look where we are coming from. We are not typical politicians. We are the youth. Right now, if we wanted to make an hooliganism team of cadres, no party can even compare. Some of us have got that capability. We can rock this country. But we have chosen to take a different path. We said to take clean politics, that which are anchored on economic emancipation, not beating up and stone throwing. So would have joined other ranks, and I would have come here in a beret with red eyes and a gun here in a combat.
Speaking about youth, why should they vote for economic freedom fighters?
Because we are focused on what matters most. When people give you change, we are also youth. We feel how we feel. One thing I can tell you, some of my friends right now, when they see me, they're always asking me, Kasonde, help us with this, they help. One of the reasons why they come, because they know I understand. I'm in their shoes. We are together at school. Some of them are my young brothers. We are this generation where we were born, man, and there are no jobs. There are no jobs. 4 or 5 me have done architecture, I've even done law, I've done intellectual property. But jobs go to only those who are connected, and a few are lucky. So we are born in that environment, and we understand. I understand the youth because I'm one of them. So one of the reasons why they should vote for us is because we know. Some people say, no, I've got the youth. No. The youth don't need to be used. The youth needs to be empowered. We're a generation that's very creative. We are the generation that is making tuntemba at the corner of, we are trying all these. We are even opening Bola Bet now. We are trying all these things. So we are a very creative force, and we need to be given that momentum. We don't need to be tied. This is a generation that will soar. And we have come with a plan because we are feeding from the youth.
The education sector that you have fought so remarkably in regards to many issues that happen in the education sector, in terms of bursaries, people who are from vulnerable communities and families being denied this access to better education due to the fact that they don't have a bursary. How then do you propose better alternative under your party?
You can deny somebody almost anything, but don't deny them an education. Education is an enabler. I'm standing here. I started school at Msakanya Primary School, went to Msungu Primary School. Those are schools way in the bush. But I got an education. Now I'm standing here as a president. I'm even on the ballot. You know what gave me chance? Because my family helped me get an education, and the government allowed it. I rose to the highest universities in this country. I've been there. And now I'm confident. I want this confidence that I have to spill over to that boy on the street. Because I'm not special than them. I'm not special than anybody. I'm even coming from a worse off place. I've walked to school on foot. My parents were just teachers. So I know what it means. If we can give education to the least in our society, we would have emancipated. So no one should stand in the way of it. Let them stand in the way of something, not in the way of education. That has been my passion. And I want everybody, when we get into power, who make school so accessible, such that even a maid will be swallowed by government giving them a means to an education.
President Mwenda, your last message to the Zambian people as we wind up the show.
Wherever I want to go, our feet shall take us there. I'm inviting Zambians to know that this country will be built by us, not by anybody else. I know there's a lot of politics of organism, people making noise and campaigning on a song and all those things. As we bring you an agenda. This is an agenda we'll be knocking until you hear. We have come to stay. So Zambians, I'm asking them to give us a chance as economic freedom fighters to sit on the driving seat. If they are not ready to do that, we can assure them we'll be here and waiting until they realize, because this country needs economic emancipation, not politicking. And most of the people that we have on the political scene right now are politicking. We are not politicking. We are serious.
President Mwenda, thank you very much for coming through to the program.
Welcome. Thank
There
you.
you have it, viewers. That was President Mwenda, President of the Economic Freedom Fighter. Thank you very much for watching the Manifesto. Until next time, good night and God bless.